Welcome to the Shipping Podcast, where I meet interesting maritime professionals sharing their passion for the shipping industry and their everyday job. I am your host. My name is Lena Gosberg. Hello, Shipping Podcast listeners. Welcome to the 98th episode of the Shipping Podcast. I can't believe it's been 98 guests. This is the last interview I made at the Opening Oceans conference in May 2018. DNV GL is one of the sponsors to the conference, and I had the opportunity to sit down with Bjørn Haugland. He is the Executive Vice President and the Chief Sustainability Officer in DNV GL. He's responsible for the group's sustainability agenda and the chairman of DNV GL Corporate Sustainability Board. We met at the Opening Oceans conference, a conference which was set up to explore maritime business opportunities. And this chat with Bjørn, I think it sums it all up. So, without further ado, this is Bjørn Haugland. Welcome to the Shipping Podcast. Could you please introduce yourself?
So my name is Bjørn Haugland. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer of DNV GL.
And what is your background?
So my background is Naval Architect. So I grown up in the west coast of Norway, and all my childhood was very connected to the sea. So when I entered university, I did my degree in naval architecture.
When did you first come in contact with the maritime industry? Was it because you lived like that, or?
Yeah, so I think it's because, as I said, we used the sea a lot. We lived close to the sea, and growing up in Norway as a big maritime nation, I think the whole shipping industry and the maritime industry was very close to our daily life. And for me, I think that's where I got my interest, and that has kind of shaped my career from that point.
So what did you do when you graduated as a naval architect?
So during my study, first a bachelor degree in Bergen, and then my master degree in Trondheim, I was very much focused on hydrodynamic. So that was kind of my special field. And this was just in the beginning of the 90s. So at that time, we had a huge project in the North Sea, lifting out, towing out big offshore constructions. So my final thesis on NTNU in Trondheim was connected to wave forces on these big offshore installations.
And then you started to work with DNV GL at the time, or?
Then I started to work with DNV, which was the name of the company at that time. And at that time, DNV was a much smaller company. We had less than 4,000 employees. And of course, the core of DNV at that time was very much the maritime industry. For myself, I started in the oil and gas industry, actually. So I worked in what we call marine operation, which means that we do quality assurance of marine operations. My first years was very much the activity in the North Sea, installation of Troll, Draugen, Sleipner, all these big oil installations, where we reviewed all the documentation, but also was on site during the operations and declared the kind of quality assurance before they could start up. So that was to monitor the weather forecast and to see that everything was okay before they could start the operation. So that was, for me, very exciting, because I got to work with captains and with operational people, and I came with a more theoretic background, but it was a good learning opportunity.
But now you are the sustainability manager.
Yeah, so I think for the last 10 years, my interest have been more and more onto sustainability, on climate change, on all the big environmental challenges, but also social challenges I think the world are meeting. So that is where I have spent more and more of my time. And I think the interest for me came when I lived in China. I lived in China from 2004 to 2008. And during those years, I really kind of started to see how big challenges we have in terms of environment and sustainability, and gradually also the opportunities for DNV GL to focus on that area.
So you've been around for a while. What are the biggest changes you have seen in the maritime industry?
Well, for the maritime industry, I also lived a few years in Korea in the middle of the 90s. At that time, nothing was going on in China in respect to building activities. Obviously, kind of 10 years later, when I moved to China, it was a lot going on there with big shipyards building up, big Chinese shipping companies coming up, and so on and so forth. So I think that is one of the changes that you see, the production capacity in the industry, the owner structure have changed quite a bit over these years. We see that the Asian owners are becoming more active. Then obviously it has been a technology change as well. But I would say that technology shift have mainly been, how I see it, the last 5 years. Before that, it was much more kind of incremental developments. But with the crack in the oil price and overcapacity, you have seen more innovative forces coming into the industry. And I expect that will continue going forward with more pressure on regulation, on environment. So I think we will see a period now where the shipping industry will change the shape and driven by technology development.
So how do you see the future then for shipping in general?
Yeah, so in general, obviously, I see a great future for shipping. We do our analysis and we see that shipping will, on top of global trade, will increase a lot, maybe like 60% towards 2050. So it will be a growing market. Saying that, I think the fact that shipping is an integrated part of longer supply chains will influence shipping more and more. And with that, I mean that fundamentally the end consumers and the society will gradually put more and more pressure to the shipping industry to be cleaner. So that I think is some kind of a pressure, but I think also an opportunity for the industry to develop new technologies and to reduce the environmental footprint of the shipping industry. And then obviously technologies like autonomous shipping can also, done right, both improve safety, but also reduce costs of the shipping industry. So I think we are into a time with change in terms of technology.
So what about, I meet a lot of people who says, oh, it's going to change so much and my job is in danger. And how do you see that? My personal view is that we need to be influential when it comes to the new jobs that probably will arise from this digitalization.
Yeah, so obviously it is a lot of discussion on this these days, that technology kind of replace jobs. My view on that is that obviously that has happened for many, many years. Particularly jobs which are either very much routine jobs or dangerous will be replaced by technology sooner or later. But I think on top of this, also new jobs will arise, which require kind of human touch and human mindset. So I am optimistic in this sense that also within the maritime industry, you will probably gradually see that as connectivity increase, that jobs are moved from the ships into shore. You can centralize functions. You can make the operation more efficient, meaning with less people involved. But it will also create opportunities for the industry to do other things and to do more things. And there's where the new jobs will come as well.
Yeah, I agree. And collaboration is the new buzzword. Do you see that? Do you see unexpected collaborations anywhere?
Well, I think as a starting point, I would see that the shipping industry is probably the most international industry we have, the most global industry we have, and really a collaborative industry. It has been for generation like that. Somebody said that the shipping industry is moving slowly, and obviously, that is part of the truth, but the shipping industries also move together. So I think that the whole term of collaboration is very central to the industry. I think what is important going forward is that the shipping industry kind of start to also look sideways, meaning that it's not longer only kind of collaboration within the direct value chain of shipping, but they need to look wider on how they collaborate with technology companies, because digitalization is kind of a horizontal force. So that kind of cut through different sectors. So also for the shipping industry to be curious about how other sectors can participate in the innovation process within the vertical of shipping, I think will be very much important. And just to take an example, when you see now the first autonomous zero-emission cargo ship, which will be then launched in Norway next year, which is the Yara Birkeland, that is kind of invented basically by Kongsberg and Yara. So it's not the kind of traditional players in shipping, but it is more the technology companies who are kind of driving that agenda. So that is my advice, that the shipping industry should also, in addition to the traditional collaboration, look broader and see how they can be inspired and take advantage from other industries.
People talk about that we are going to be disrupted. Do you think that the disruption will come from within or from without?
I think it will come both. It will definitely come from within, from actors who kind of see opportunities with new solutions, new technologies, which they can do things more efficient, solve problems, make things cheaper. That is where disruption is coming from. But it might also come from outside, from actors not in the shipping industry today, but again, driven by the same agenda, that they see either inefficiency, which can be solved, see need of transparency, which is not there today, or simply see that they can solve the task, much cheaper than the existing ways of doing things. So I think we will see that going forward, and from both inside and from outside the industry.
So what can we do to become more visible as an industry? We are often looked upon as the Cinderella industry. No one knows about us.
Yeah, so that's true. That's true, and I've seen it more and more. As you said, the last 10 years I've been working on a broader agenda with sustainability, meaning that I'm supporting all our business areas in DNV GL, from the food industry to health industry to the whole span of energy, from oil and gas to renewable to the maritime industry. And when I have then seen the maritime industry in that perspective, it is kind of a little bit closed. So what can you do? Well, first and foremost, I think we need to articulate our stories for a broader audience. So it's not about, only tell the stories to those who almost know the story because they have so much kind of competence. So you need to simplify. And we also need to kind of connect the shipping story to a bigger story. And I think the biggest story we have these days are the 17 UN Sustainability Goals, which is kind of the picture of the world we want to see evolving towards 2030. So the more the shipping industry can be part of the solution and kind of connect themselves into these 17 challenges, I think the more relevant the industry will be for a broader audience. And in particular, young people, we see it very clearly. They more and more would like to work for companies or industries which have a positive impact of the world. So I think for the shipping industry as well, to tell these stories and to demonstrate that they are supporting some of these big social or environmental challenges we have in the world today. And then very practical, demonstrate how they can do better is essential. So simplification is important in order to reach a bigger audience.
Yeah, because we are looking for the brightest minds, and we will compete with everyone else.
Every industry, in order to grow and prosper, need to be attracted for the best people. If you are not on that kind of track, gradually you will lose your competitive force. And I think for the maritime industry, it's not only to kind of continue where we are today, it's also to see new opportunities. And that is the history of shipping, and where you see, how all the competence in shipping was used to build the oil and gas industry offshore, how the competence in shipping is used to kind of build the aquaculture industry. And I think going forward, sadly enough, we will see more and more consequences for climate change. We will see more urbanizations, and we see many of these cities, more and more of them will be located near the coast. Again, this represents a huge opportunity, I think, for the maritime competence to provide solutions for how we can move transportation from land. So how we can kind of come with solutions for the new cities with respect to transportation and so on and so forth. So I think it's not only to kind of attract the young people into the existing industry, it is also to see that it is a broader set of opportunities for the industry based on the competence they have today.
Yeah, and I also think that if we communicate what we are best of doing, politicians need to know that as well, because they are the ones taking the decisions on our behalf. And if they don't know what we are doing,
it's very hard for the politicians to assist. Another element I think the industries need to look very closely on is to get more female, engineers and leaders step by step in. I frequently visit different conferences, and it is particular to see when you are on a maritime conference how much dominated it still is by men. So I think to really get diversity is important, in particular in order to drive innovation, in particular in order to drive communication. And there we need much more inflow of females into the industry.
I invite you to visit a Vista conference because it's only women.
Yeah, I have actually been once at a Vista conference at North Shipping, and that was amazing. But I don't think that is enough.
No, I agree with you. But also my experience is that I meet young women now who are bringing in the new things into our industry. I met so many young women, for instance, here in Copenhagen. They are experts in 3D printing, they are experts in blockchain, they are experts in other things. And they bring in the new knowledge that we need, or the knowledge that we are going to need in our industry. And then it's not a gender issue anymore, because they do this because they are passionate about it. And I get tear-eyed when I see them and meet them. They're so good.
No, definitely. And so for the industry, it's basically to create a culture where this happens more and more. So we are attractive for the best minds, and definitely that we are helping also to get a more balance with respect to female inflow in the industry. Because they will create a different kind of leadership. They will present a somewhat different mindset and will do the whole industry more healthy.
I couldn't agree more. You just won my prize. Who do you think I should meet the next? Who should I interview in the shipping podcast?
Well, I think you should maybe go to some of the young, interesting female entrepreneurs. I think this team behind this Blue A Robotics, these drones, Christina Spiten, I think she can, really represent, what opportunities the industry have had if we are just able to envision new solutions and have the passion to drive it through and create new products. So I think if you get hold of her, I think she will inspire a lot of others to follow in her footstep.
Okay, I will definitely try that. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time, Bjørn.
Thank you, Bjørn. I appreciate you mentioning that we need more female leaders in the maritime industry. I could not agree more. I'm still on that high from visiting the Vista International AGM and conference in Tromsø. And if you never attended one of those, I think you should try, because it gives so much energy and so many new thoughts. And you could see some of the female young leaders just taking command and helping us developing our industry. I am busy preparing my 100th episode of the Shipping Podcast. I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I thought I would share with you my journey through the times when I have developed this concept and what has happened behind the scenes, so to say. In addition to what did I learn about our industry, being a disruptor and being someone who's bringing something new into the maritime industry, but also bringing the maritime industry out to a broader audience. I hope you will appreciate it, but we have got one episode still before it's 100. And of course, I had to interview the project leader behind the Opening Oceans conference, and you will listen to her in the 99th episode, which is up on the Shipping Friday 2 weeks from now. With that, I leave you and love you. From me to you, over and out. Thank you for listening to the Shipping Podcast. Don't forget to tell everyone that you meet that there is a Shipping Podcast available and that they should download it and listen to the maritime professionals who are sharing their passion for the shipping industry.